Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them.
Hello, I'm Bill Litvin, a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. 4 candidates are competing in the Democratic Party for a chance to be Berks County's commissioner. They are Dante Santoni Jr., Douglas Metcalf, Jesse Royer, and Isamak Torres Figueroa. Democratic voters across the county will vote for 2 to be on the fall ballot. The Board of Commissioners is the chief governing body of the county. The 3 elected at-large members perform the executive and legislative functions of county government. Term is 4 years. Current annual salary for a commissioner is $110,339, and for the commissioner chairperson is $113,678. Please note that the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and are not the opinions of the League of Women Voters or of Berks Community Television. Our interview is with Jesse Royer. Welcome. Jesse, please tell our viewers about yourself and why you are running.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here. My name is Jess Royer. I live in Spring Township. I'm currently a Spring Township supervisor out there. I work in the city in Reading, PA at the Reading Public Library, and I really enjoy the idea of service. My wife and I are raising our 4 children here in Berks County to be productive members of our community. We think it's important to participate in our community in a way that we feel good about. So we are very engaged, whether it's volunteering in our children's school or coaching soccer or serving as a public servant at Reading Public Library. I'm definitely very much drawn to the idea of public service. And that same drive that led me to become a librarian is what's bringing me into elected office. As a Spring Township supervisor, I feel like I'm a valuable member of the decision-making process in Spring Township. Before I was a supervisor, I was on the zoning hearing board, and I really enjoy playing a role in the land use decision-making process, and that's why I'm running now for Berks County Commissioner.
What personal qualities do you have that would help you be an effective commissioner?
As I just mentioned, a desire to serve. My undergrad was York College of Pennsylvania, and the motto there, my Latin is very rusty, but is Servire est vivere, which means to serve is to live. And like I said, I'm very much drawn to the idea of public service. There's also a phrase that you hear around these parts, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I like to be a part of the decision-making process because that way, if I have any complaints, I know who to complain to, myself and my fellow supervisors out in Spring Township. I think it's really easy to complain about government, and a lot of people will do what's called othering the government. They think the government is for other people, it's by other people. I'm a firm believer that government is what you make of it, and it's made up of community members. And rather than complain about what other people are doing in government, I'd like to toss my hat in the ring and be a part of the decision-making process as well, so that I know that I've done my best to build the community that I want to see.
Are you involved in volunteer or community work? If so, please tell us about it.
Yes, so I do serve in a volunteer capacity on a few different boards. The idea of helping out with the specific organizations such as World Affairs Council, Reading and Berks. I enjoy being a part of the conversation around international affairs and how it relates to us locally. I also coach soccer. We have 4 children, 3 of whom are soccer age. I have coached each of them at least once so far. I'm also a part of the Spring Township Supervisors. That is not technically volunteer. We do get paid a stipend for that, but there's a lot of hours that go into that you don't make an hourly rate that's anything to write home about. That's a service-based position as well.
What are the 3 issues facing the county that you think are most important?
So there are a couple different ways to answer that question. As a public servant, and I consider myself very privileged to be in a position of service, I feel very passionately about our public entities, whether that's Berks Heim or Berks County Prison, or even the public employees that work for the county. So part of what draws me to the idea of elected office is supporting our public institutions. I actually did run for commissioner 4 years ago when there was a lot of talk around potentially selling Berks Heim. There was also a lot of talk around privatizing Berks County Prison. There was also at that time a contract with Immigration and Customs Enforcement where we were detaining people out by Berks Heim and Berks County Prison at the detention center, the Berks County Residential Center as it was officially known. And I think that we need to support the public employees that make up those entities, but also think about really what the mandate is of those institutions. And with respect to Berks Heim, we have a commitment to the people who live there. As it relates to Berks County Prison, we have a commitment to the people who are staying there right now, the individuals who are experiencing incarceration right now. And I want to make sure that the county is answerable for those 2 institutions in particular, Berks Heim and Berks County Prison, and in a way that a private operator would not be. So maintaining a strong commitment to our public institutions is important to me. Maintaining a strong commitment to our public employees is important to me. And maintaining a strong commitment to preserving our open spaces and thinking critically about what we're doing with the land in Berks County is important to me. And that ties into an issue which is really front of mind for a lot of people right now is warehouses. We have a lot of spaces which are either agricultural right now or wooded spaces right now where developers are looking at those and saying we could put a warehouse there and a distribution center that could serve a lot of different regions from the Berks County area. It could be going up to New England, it could be going down along the Atlantic seaboard. You can get to a lot of different places within this region very quickly from Berks County. So we're seeing a lot of potential development about warehouses, and I want to protect our open spaces as much as possible.
Many governments, including the City of Reading, have developed environmental sustainability programs. Do you see that as a useful tool to prepare Berks County for the future? Why or why not?
I think it's actually very short-sighted to not have some environmental consideration. As we think about where we will be 10, 15, 20 years from now, I think we're going to be speaking very differently about land use then. We have learned a lot in the recent history about water runoff, whether you have parking lots or lots of driveways in a development or lots of roadways where rainwater pools on those roadways, creating hazards for drivers. It also drains off into people's yards. In Spring Township, we have a couple runoff areas where when it rains heavily, which it's doing more and more frequently these days, you'll see rivers running through people's backyards. You'll see sewage back up into people's homes because we are really expecting a lot of the aquifer and we are really just hoping that nature can drain off a lot of our water. And that's not something that's necessarily happening. So we need to be thinking critically about our actions today and how it relates to the future. And an Environmental Advisory Council is a great way to be thinking about that from the perspective of whether it's consumption or whether it's just our regular everyday behaviors. We really do need to be thinking about how government can sort of move us into the future responsibly from an environmental perspective.
Let's talk transportation. Is there enough money to bring our roads and bridges up to standard?
A lot of times with government, the conversation isn't around whether or not there's enough money, it's whether or not there's enough will. And bridges and roads all across Pennsylvania, not just in Berks County, we've known for a while that they're crumbling. We hear about our crumbling infrastructure. And that's dangerous. There was a high-profile incident in Pittsburgh last year where a bridge collapsed as people were driving on it. One thing that Berks County has been doing is rehabilitating bridges, local bridges. Actually, let me take a step back. They'll assume control of a bridge from a township or a local municipality, fix the bridge, and then return control of that bridge back to the local municipality. And that comes from the county having deeper pockets than some of these smaller, more rural townships. And I think that is a good way to improve the inventory of bridges that we have in Berks County. But it's a creative solution, which I think government does need to be creative sometimes in terms of figuring out which governmental entity is best suited to repair something and how to do that. So I think that, yes, there is enough money out there. We just need to spend it wisely.
Do you feel public transportation impacts economic development? Should the county invest in public transportation?
Absolutely. I think the county does have a very important role to play with respect to public transportation. We do have a bus system which serves much of the county and some of the farther flung communities. I think that there are a lot of stakeholders in public transportation, but one place that needs to see the return of service is Kutztown. And when Beaver Lines shut down, a private company shut down, there has not been the resumption of service to that area from any kind of mass transit. Another conversation which is happening now, which happens, well, a lot, every so often, is the return of passenger rail. And Reading obviously has a really, really rich legacy in terms of rail transit, whether it's freight or passenger. And I think this is an exciting time. And as County Commissioner, I'll be really excited to see the resumption of passenger rail to Reading and Berks County. And that will really spur on our economic development and also open the opportunity for people who live in Reading to get down to Philadelphia, to get to places beyond. And that will also spur economic development, both ways. We're going to see more opportunities for people to get into Reading and Berks and for our residents to get out of Reading and Berks to work elsewhere.
You've probably answered my next question, but are there other transportation ideas you'd like to mention? I think you already mentioned them. But.
Sure, yeah. I think bus and trains are a great way to make transit available to a wide range of people. And that is a good way to get cars off the road. A lot of times you hear people in the city of Reading complain about parking. Parking can be tough, depending on where you are in the city. That can be really hard to find a spot to park. That can be frustrating. That's a problem that we've sort of created for ourselves, though. When we, as a society, have really romanticized vehicle travel, and I love a good road trip, but we have really come to accept cars and traffic as part of our daily lives. That doesn't need to be the case. Another way to solve some of the strain on our roads and congestion and traffic will be bike lanes. My wife and I, we went to grad school in Vancouver. Vancouver has some fantastic bike infrastructure, and it can be hard to retrofit existing roads and bridges for bikes, but it is a really good way to make residential neighborhoods quieter, less through traffic. It's a way to take cars off the road. There was a phrase that I really enjoyed when we were more a part of bike culture. When you're sitting in your car and you're complaining about being stuck in traffic, you are traffic. If you're going to be in a bike, if you can be outside of that car, then you're not going to be contributing to that congestion.
Will our infrastructure, including technology, meet the needs of a growing economy? If not, what would you improve?
Well, our infrastructure, as I mentioned, the train looks like it's on the right track, pardon the pun. It does seem like we're headed towards the resumption of train service, and that will be great. That will be a boon for a lot of different facets of our daily lives. But as far as what other infrastructure we have, we do need to be thinking critically about where we're going in the 21st century. Our infrastructure needs are changing, our information needs are changing, and what we think about as infrastructure is not what the conversation was 20, 30 years ago, and it will be very different 20, 30 years from now as we move to a more electrified lifestyle. And we need to think about how we are getting electricity to all of the different areas throughout Berks County and making sure that it's reliable service. We live on a busy road, which can be frustrating to deal with traffic. One of the nice things about living on a busy road is we hardly ever lose power. Some of the more rural areas of the county, you get some heavy winds and you could be without power for hours and sometimes over a day. And that can be an inconvenience that a lot of people aren't really prepared for.
Childcare is hard to find and afford in Berks. Parents who want to work are stymied by the lack of care for their children. Should the county play a role in this area?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Childcare is very expensive. We have 4 children, and our daycare cost far eclipses our mortgage. It's extremely expensive, and almost to the point where you wonder, is it worth it for me to go to work? You're sending your kids off to somewhere to spend the entire day, and you're just going to work so that you don't lose your foothold in your industry or in your career. And it can sometimes feel like you're sort of treading water. I think that through universal pre-K programs, that is a way to get children into a school setting a little bit earlier. It can still be tough for early age children to have a place to go and for one of the parents or both of the parents to sort of put together a patchwork of work schedules to make ends meet in terms of being able to afford childcare but also still have the ability to maintain a career. I think this is a conversation that needs to happen at all levels of government, and whether it's more paid leave for new parents, for young parents, or greater assistance with the cost of childcare, there's a number of ways to approach that problem. But it is definitely something that a lot of young families have to make some hard decisions about.
Most of the money the county spends for mental health comes from the state. The pandemic has affected the mental health of young and old alike. Is the county doing enough?
I think it's hard to say that anybody isn't doing enough. There are a lot of different approaches to assessing and addressing mental health needs, and you'll hear some conversations happen at the county level that the county is the largest mental health provider in this area as it relates to the prison population. And the mental health context around a lot of people who are experiencing incarceration, what got them there. There could be diversionary programs that happen before that which really address mental health needs. I work at Reading Public Library. We see people every day who have mental health needs. And as librarians, we do our best to help them on whatever information quest they're on, but sometimes they need more than that. There are degrees out there now where you're actually merging social work with librarianship, and that's a way of sort of cross-pollinating from two different careers in terms of how to make mental health offerings available to people who need it. But it is something that in all of our everyday lives, we encounter people who are experiencing mental health needs, and it's a conversation that's been changing, and we do need to think about that critically.
Building a new prison was put on hold by the current Board of Commissioners. What are your thoughts on when we should build, how large a facility we should have, and what programs we should have to prevent recidivism? Yeah, recidivism is a big word that you really want to see good results when it comes to getting people who are re-entering society, staying in society. And there are, like I mentioned a moment ago, diversionary tactics where there could be some sort of a treatment-based court where if you have somebody who's experiencing some sort of addiction, finding ways to not lock them up because of some other underlying issues. And the prison serving as a mental health facility because there are a lot of context and background issues which will have somebody end up in prison that shouldn't necessarily be locked up. They're not necessarily a threat to society. But when it comes to figuring out how we're going to build a new prison, fortunately we've seen falling bed rates at the prison. So we need to build a prison that is A, smaller than our current one, but not going to be looked at as a place where we can put anybody who's experiencing some sort of difficulty in their lives. It needs to be a destination of last resort. And it's an extremely expensive proposition, but one that needs to be done for the sake of the people who are living and working there. Our current prison is falling apart in many ways, and you can only patch it up so many times. So we are going to need a new building at some point in the near future. Public parks are a huge antidote to the cabin fever of the pandemic. And public libraries are where people without computers or internet go to apply online for jobs. Is Berks investing adequately in these facilities?
And I want to be clear that for the viewers out there, I didn't know that question was going to be asked, and I had no part in crafting it. But I think libraries are fantastic. Sometimes they're called third places. Parks serve a similar function as a third place, where people have home as one place, they have work or school as a second place, and then they need a third place. Could be a coffee shop for some people. Could be a community facility such as Barrio Alegria. It could be some sort of place where you can go and not spend money, and that's what libraries really are. They offer an opportunity for young families to go and have free programming, free materials. Libraries are not just books. We've been saying that for 20, 25 years now. Libraries are not just books. We have lots of multimedia options, but one really important part of libraries is access to the internet. 16,000 households in Berks County don't have a computer, and 24,000 households in Berks County don't have broadband internet. You can get both of those things at the library for free, and libraries and parks are absolutely vital places for people to go and enjoy themselves.
Please give us your closing statement. You have about a minute.
Okay. Well, I love Berks County, and I think it is a great place to live. My young family, my young and growing family, really enjoys all that it has to offer. We feel very fortunate to live here. We want to make sure other people feel the same way. So Berks County needs to be a welcoming place. It could be, regardless of where somebody's born, it could be a real asset for them to come to Berks County. Berks County has cultural offerings, economic offerings. It's very well situated relative to New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. We live in a really beautiful place that's connected to the world in many ways, but still has some room for improvement. And that's why I'm running for county commissioner. That's why I've built a team of people who care about Berks County, care about the city of Reading, care about the surrounding area, and really want to see us all move forward and build a government that works for all of us.
Thank you, Jesse Royer, for sharing your views with us. Viewers, please remember there are 3 other candidates for commissioner on the Democratic ballot: Dante Santoni Jr., Douglas Metcalf, and Ismac Torres Figueroa. You will vote for 2. Thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.
You will find the Candidates Upfront interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org. Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.